After their first setback of the season, the Wildcat football team finds a familiar foe waiting in Frisco. I'm Kara Stutzman.
And I'm Grant Boone. We'll look back at a close loss in Illinois and ahead to this afternoon's tilt with Tarleton. It's the Ken Collums Show starting right now. Welcome into Studio D1 for Week 5 of the Ken Collums Show. I'm Grant Boone along with ACU Senior Broadcast Journalism major Kara Stutzman and ACU head football coach Ken Collums. The Wildcats last Saturday night in their first ever trip to Illinois lost their first game of the season. 31-17 was the final, coach. Some of us talking after the game were saying maybe it's not a game that ACU should have won, but certainly a game that the Wildcats could have won. Agree or disagree?
Sure. We walked into that atmosphere knowing that we better play well, and we needed some things to go our way for us to ultimately win the game. We knew we could play with them. We got good players, and we were fully confident going in. The first quarter got down. We answered. Had some things, go wrong. Wheels started wobbling a little bit. We put them back on, and we just couldn't finish the game. They were a little bit too much for us, and we just weren't quite clean enough.
It was a slight setback in your first, D1 team game. What did you and your team learn from that experience and from the atmosphere?
Well, I don't know that we learned much of anything new. What we did learn was, we belong here. And it just affirmed in our minds and in our hearts that, we're on the right track. We're doing exactly what we should be doing. And our deficiencies really stood out, which we kind of knew that going in. Some of the matchups that they could create worked against us. However, some of the matchups that we created throughout the game worked in our favor. But, I left that game going, okay, we got to get some more big boys. Mm-hmm. Their defensive line was exceptional. They were really good. They had one guy, Colton Underwood, which we took care of for 3 quarters. John David Baker came to the line. He knew exactly where that guy was on every single play. And watching John David do that and to set his protection and basically protect himself and beat those guys with his mind, that's what a quarterback is. It's not just taking a snap and throwing the ball, but we did a really good job for 3 quarters protecting him, and then we started running out of gas, and they turned up the heat on us a little bit, and now he was in the fourth quarter. He was on the move, but we walked away knowing we got to get some more big offensive linemen, and we have big guys. We just need more of them. We need depth. D-line wise, we got to get some more, and going up there and playing with them. And in the third quarter, I thought we had a shot to win the game. I thought we had them, and we weren't clean enough. We were in second long all night long, mm-hmm. and that's you can't do that against a good defensive front. But we left going, we're on the right track. We can one game set, we can play with those. A full schedule, we're not quite ready for that yet.
Interesting. Great experience up there in Normal, Illinois. Final score 31-17 in favor of Illinois State. It was a cool night in the land of Lincoln. And with a look back at the highlights, here is Matt Sloan.
ACU would take on Illinois State in their first road game of the season. The Redbirds put together a physical drive capped with a touchdown run and a 7-0 lead. ACU would march down the field looking to respond, but an unfortunate fumble by DeMarcus Thompson gives the ball back to ISU and keeps the Cats down by 7. The Redbirds would march down the field and kick a field goal to take a 2-possession lead. That's when ACU began to open up the playbook with a couple of trick plays, including this reverse to Taylor Gabriel. The Wildcats capped the drive when John David Baker found Darian Hogg, who walks the tightrope and gets 6 points, 10-7 ISU. ACU would get the ball back after a great defensive stop and go back to work. Shark Kendrick West takes the screen and goes for a big gain, setting up an ACU field goal and tying this one at 10. The Redbirds would respond with a solid passing drive, capped with a touchdown throw that pushed the ISU lead back to 17-10. Then the play of the game for ISU. With time expiring in the second quarter, the Redbirds return a punt for a touchdown and go into the halftime 24-10, killing ACU's momentum. After a fourth down sack by Angel Lopez, Baker goes back to the Hog for the sweet taste of success and another touchdown to narrow the gap. But in the fourth quarter, the Redbird depth was just too much for ACU. The Wildcats hung tough all night, but could not do enough to overcome the early deficit. ACU drops to 3-1 on the season after their 31-17 loss to Illinois State.
Thanks, Matt. When we come back, the coach and I will take a closer look at last week, including the play of the game. Stay with us here on the Ken Collums Show. Back here on the Ken Collums Show, we're going to break down this 31-17 loss to Illinois State. Coach, I don't think either team at the end of the year is going to say last Saturday night was their cleanest game of the season. 16 combined penalties, almost 200 yards between the two of you. You guys lost your first fumble by the first team offense all season. So as you look back to the mistakes your team made, how many of them would you say were forced by good plays by Illinois State, and how many of the wounds would you say were self-inflicted?
You know, there's always a balance of both. All mistake. You're not going to play a mistake-free game.
Sure.
You're not going to do that. And definitely against a good team, they're gonna expose you a little bit and maybe make you do some things that you normally don't do. But last Saturday night it's the first turnover battle that we've lost since I can remember. Maybe, in the middle of last year. Yeah. But we don't ever do that. We don't ever lose the turnover game. If we turn the ball over, the other team normally turns it over a couple of times. But that was a pretty critical deal because we had, we fumbled inside the 10. So in essence, we took points off the board, which is a bummer against a really good team. And so we were constantly in second and long, third and long, and some of that is not quite manageable enough against a really good defensive front. And that's where the whole thing starts, is when you face a team that is very, very strong up front, you better play clean. Of course, the problem is defensive linemen force you to not play quite as clean.
Right. In tennis, they have errors and unforced errors, and some of those clearly were forced by a really good defensive line of the Redbirds. Let's talk about special teams, and specifically that idea of breakdowns by your team versus just really good plays that they made. Opening kickoff, they take it out to the 44, and they've got all kinds of energy. The crowd's going nuts. It's their home opener. Kickoff, return to the 44, 7 plays later, boom, they're in the end zone, and it was like, whoa, okay, welcome to Division I. Yeah. And then special teams would be really a struggle throughout the game. Obviously, they had the punt return for a touchdown at the end of the first half. Did it surprise you what they did on special teams? Were there mistakes by your own team that caused it? What was it?
Probably a little of both. They, we knew going in that they were strong in the special teams. But we were too. We've got some inadequacies at certain areas, but by and large, we're a pretty good special teams outfit. Now, our special teams played out exactly like our offense and our defense played out. There were times where our offense was beautiful. There's a couple of drives in there that were just, oh man, that's how you do it. But then there were, we hit bumps in the road, the wheels start wobbling a little bit, and we go backwards and then can't overcome it. Same way on defense. Do a great job on first and second down, and then somebody is out of position on third down and gives them an easy throw and catch on third down. In special teams, just inconsistent all across the board. We gave up a couple of big kickoff returns, and then the punt return for a touchdown. Every other special team snap was almost perfect. I mean, it was exactly what you want. It's just in several breakdowns, good players make you pay.
Did that feel to you like the kick in the gut that it seemed like to us after really, you gave up the first touchdown to them on the opening drive, but you really battled hard the rest of the half?
That's right. And, the good thing is, the bad thing first is that's the end of the first half, and they've got the momentum. Yeah. Well, guess what? We're going to halftime. Nobody's going out to kickoff return. No, defense is not running out. Offense is not running out. So the momentum to me was a non-issue because we went in for halftime.
Sure.
And we came out, and I thought we established ourselves there in the third quarter. They had 20 yards of offense. So a whole lot of momentum didn't help them offensively in the third quarter. And we were able to do okay there in the third, and but again, not consistent enough to win the game.
Each week we're going to take a look at a play of the game, and let's look at the first play of your first scoring drive, and you'll see Taylor Gabriel on a reverse. After a touchback to the 25-yard line, you go shark, then you go pitch to Gabriel. He goes the other way. And how about J.D. with a block, springing him a little bit? You run the end around a lot, but you don't run the reverse a whole lot.
Sure. That is, at that point in the game, we knew, hey, TG's got to get in the game.
Yeah.
We've got to, as if we're responsible adults here as offensive coaches, you got to get that guy the ball. And that's the key, is getting the ball to your playmakers. And that's the first thing. We were trying to get those D linemen tired. And so we ran an outside run to the left, and then we turn around with Cade Stone and run an outside run play all the way to the field, just to get them running a little bit. Hey, slow them down. And we were able to ultimately throw and catch for a touchdown at the end of the drive.
Yeah, Darian Hogg tiptoed down the sideline. Hogg had a big game. He had 5 catches, 68 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. And John David Baker maybe held on to the ball a little longer than you would have liked to, a couple of times, but another clean game in the sense that he didn't give the ball to the other team. No fumbles and no picks, again, by J.D.
Sure. He knows what he's doing as far as he's not going to give up the ball. You're not going to cause him to fumble unless it's a freaky type deal. He understands that. He values that, and that's the reason that we're able to win games that we are.
ACU falls 31-17 to Illinois State. They'll try to right the ship this week against Tarleton State. We'll preview the game against the Texans a little bit later, but when we come back, it's up to the JMC Network Sports Desk for a look at what's happening around the rest of the ACU sports world. Keep it here on the Ken Collums Show.
Abilene and Big Country shoppers, if you're looking to upgrade to a new Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, or GMC, car, truck, or SUV, Lawrence Hall in Abilene is the best place to shop. You'll find the largest selection in West Texas, including the incredible new 2014 trucks from Chevy and GMC to great fuel-efficient cars with over 15 models rated 30 mpg or higher. So shop at home and save. At Lawrence Hall in Abilene, you won't find a better deal in any direction.
Abilene, the secret is out. Holy Cow has the best burgers in town. How'd they do it? Fresh, all-natural ingredients, their secret spices, and quality meat that's never frozen. Enjoy our free and unique toppings from grilled bell peppers to jalapenos to grilled mushrooms and sautéed onions. And don't forget to add our homemade french fries and onion rings made fresh daily. Visit us on Judge Ely or our new South 14th location. Holy Cow Burgers, Rings, and Things.
Welcome back to the Ken Collums Show. The fall sports at ACU are hitting their seasonal stride. With more on that, here's the JMC Network Sportscast.
The ACU volleyball team continues their conference play this weekend after being on the road the past week. Coach Kellen Mock discussed how their high-caliber opponents so far will help them take on Nicholls State University this weekend at ACU.
I really like the fact that we've played against the best in the conference, or at least the higher end of the conference, to where I hope the girls will expect that same level from every team in our conference, because I think sometimes on any given night a team can play extremely well even if their record doesn't look great, and that's kind of where we are with McNeese and Nicholls. Their records are not near as strong as Oral Roberts and Central Arkansas, but I'm sure they'll give us everything they have when they come to Moody Coliseum this weekend.
The volleyball team is looking for ways to improve after dropping a couple of matches last week. Freshman Lexi Mercer thinks the ACU can make a couple of changes that will help them both offensively and defensively moving forward.
I think we can improve our defense, especially our block, with how fast their offense was. And I think we can improve our offense with seeing how fast other teams are, and we can compete with them more.
ACU cross country travels to Oklahoma State this weekend for their biggest meet of the season so far. Senior Chloe Sasse explained how her experience on this course in the past will be very useful to the young team this year and how she has stepped up as a leader.
It helps a lot because this course is technically very difficult. We start on the uphill, so if you don't know that and you start really fast, then it's going to be a problem at the end of the race. But it's a very difficult course, and I mean it's nice that I have done it 3 times before because I know how difficult it is, and I'll let my freshman teammate know as well.
Senior Angel Lopez has put together a great start to the 2013 football season. Lopez leads the Wildcats in tackles with 35 in the first 3 games. Kara Stutzman caught up with Lopez to learn a little bit more about the player that's been a godsend for the Wildcat secondary.
So Angel, that's quite an interesting name. Is there a story behind how you got your name or how your parents decided to name you Angel?
Right. Well, both my parents were in the military, and my mom went to Desert Storm War. She was a nurse and RN there. And the story she told me growing up was just that, you know, she got pregnant while she was in the military, and she had me after the storm, so I was just a blessing, and I was her little angel. And that's the short story of how I got my name to be Angel. So, yeah.
Well, you certainly don't play like an angel on the field. You're more like a little demon hitting the quarterback and running backs and wide receivers. Would you rather have a big hit or an interception?
Right. I hope coaches don't watch this video. For the team, I'd rather have an interception, you know. But honestly, I'd really rather hit somebody, you know. You only go through college one time. I feel like I could make ESPN highlights. That would be something to brag about to my kids when I'm older. I don't know. But I'm just more of like a physical type of guy. I like to think of myself as a hard-hitting safety. And so I would just love to just smack somebody instead of, but for the team, you know, it's probably better to get an interception.
So speaking of big hits, you had a massive 4th down sack against Illinois State last week. How was that for you? And your dad was actually there to see that.
Well, yeah, it was exciting. It wasn't the same, you know, if we did it at home. There's not a whole bunch of people cheering or anything, but you know, Coach Dillon just made a great play call. And I think, you know, I'm pretty top of the line when it comes to blitzes as far as like disguising, things like that. So he just made the play call, and I just did the play, and you know, I just ran fast enough to get him, and so it was pretty exciting, and it was definitely when we needed to, for, you know, to get the offense another shot. And like you said, my dad, he wasn't there, but he paid for the game on the Illinois website, so he watched it. And so that, you know, I got a text message, and he was like, you know, so excited. And you know, that makes him really happy. We have a really good relationship, you know. And so to make him happy makes me actually really happy. So.
And what does your dad think about you going into dentistry? Because you're a biology major.
Right. Yeah. He was actually not really for it. So it was actually pretty, you know, heartwarming to me. Maybe a couple months ago, he was like, you know, Angel, you know, I'm really proud. I'm really happy. I'm really proud of you that you decided to go against what I said, because, you know, you're showing me that you're a real man, and, you know, you're stepping up and making your own decisions. And, you know, it was just like maybe a 5-minute conversation of him telling me, like, you know, I'm proud that, you know, you decided to go your own route. And, you know, it really hit home with me, like, you know, if my dad's proud of me, then that makes me feel like the best son in the world. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming and taking time out of your super crazy schedule to talk to me. That's it for Angel Lopez. I'm Kara Stutzman. Back to you, Matt.
Back to you.
For Sharon Numerowski, I'm Matthew Sloan. Thanks for watching the JMC Network Sportscast. Be sure and join us again next week.
The Ken Collums Show will return shortly with a look at the other teams in the Southland Conference and a Tarleton preview, so stick with us.
Welcome back to the Ken Collums Show. Take a look at the scheduled games today in the Southland Conference. What a huge day in the FCS overall. You've got number 1 North Dakota State in that border war against South Dakota State, 1 versus 6. And then 2 other top 10 matchups involving Southland Conference teams. Eastern Washington, number 3 in FCS, is at Sam Houston State down in Huntsville. And then number 9, McNeese State, unbeaten, on the road at number 5, Northern Iowa.
Coach, what do you say we take a look at tonight's game against Tarleton State? We've played them for the past 19 years straight, and I think it's even the 34th time we've met them since, 1920? How does that familiarity give you an advantage or even a disadvantage going into this game?
Well, pretty much from our first 4 games, we're playing almost new people, you know, by and large. These guys are obviously not every time we play, whether we play in Shotwell or in Stephenville or Cowboy Stadium or cow pasture, it doesn't matter. Two teams get after it. Both of them are confident going in, and because it's a rivalry, both teams believe that they can win, and it won't be anything different. Tonight, Kerry Fowler does a good job there. They've got good players. They've got a program at work over there, and they do a good job recruiting. So they've got good players. We've got good players. It should be a good matchup. They're always, when you look from afar, it'll look pretty interesting, just like a normal rivalry. But when you look a little bit closer, there are the matchups that always tend to make the difference in a game, and we feel pretty good about those matchups. We just go out and play clean.
Give me an example.
Well, running backs versus linebackers. We feel like, with Harkless in the open, him matched up one-on-one, and we didn't really take advantage of it as much last week at Illinois State. This week we will. We're constantly trying to get the ball. It's like people refer to when you spread the field and get the ball to your playmakers, like basketball on grass. And Harkless, the only guy that can cover Harkless is probably Harkless. So that's the kind of the way we think is, okay, we ought to win that matchup every single week. Taylor Gabriel on safeties, pretty good matchup. So
he's had some big games against Charleston.
That's
returning
exactly
punts.
That's
catching
exactly
passes.
right. He just asked me, Coach, so I'm going to return kicks, and I'm like, well, maybe. I mean, do you want to? And he's like, yeah. So he constantly wants to make plays, and he is a playmaker. So we're going to get the ball to him.
Thinking back to this rivalry since you got here in 2005, there have only been 2 games that weren't close. One of those was back in your undefeated season of 2008 when you guys won handily, and then the 65-3 blowout that really was almost an unfair fight. Their quarterback, Nick Stevens, a transfer from Tennessee, had been knocked out of the game the previous week, and you guys took advantage of their backup there. They have 2 quarterbacks now. They've been going with Aaron Doyle, whom we saw last year, played a really good game against your team last year at Cowboy Stadium. And they have Jake Finsky. He finished the game last week against Angelo State. They wanted the buzzer. They beat Angelo down in the Concho Valley. So why is their 2-quarterback system working?
Well, they like to play 2 quarterbacks. That he always has. He just had Nick Stevens for a while, and he was a really good player. And he wasn't going to ever take him off the field. With Doyle, he is a little bit more of a dual threat guy. Finsky's a big kid that can just chunk it. And of course, both of them make really good decisions, or they wouldn't be on the field. But Aaron did a great job against us. He is super adequate, and at times, if you're not sharp in your blitzes and compressing the pocket, he'll dice you up. So, their quarterback play is always good against us. Rarely do they ever go into a game and their quarterbacks don't play well against us. And a couple of years ago, you mentioned 2 of them that got out of hand, but those are that's 2 out of however many years, and that's going to happen sometime.
Well, Coach, the game's at Frisco. Not technically a home game, not necessarily an away game, but the crowd there should be fantastic. What are you telling your players about walking into that kind of an atmosphere?
Well, number one, that's a cool place to play.
It really
is.
And
those guys know, hey, we're about to go play in another cool place. And I love playing in the Metroplex, regardless of whether it's in Cowboy Stadium. That was cool playing there.
Yeah.
But Toyota Stadium, that's what a great place. It's the site of the national championship game, and I was actually sitting in the stands last time that occurred, watching Sam Houston, make a game of it against North Dakota State. So we know we're walking into a good situation as far as the venue. I love the area because that is a big recruiting area for us, and at this level, we're going to end up being the closest Southland school to the Metroplex. So that's going to bode well for us. So that's only going to help us, and I'll give up a home game any day to go there, and if it'll help recruiting, because that's what it's about.
Should be a big night. In fact, big afternoon, because you got the Aaron Watson concert that begins at 2 o'clock, an ASU alum. And then you've got the game coming up at 4 p.m. today. Lance Fleming and I will begin with the pregame show at 3:30 on the ACU Sports Network. For Kara Stutzman and for Ken Collums, I'm Grant Boone. Thanks for watching the Ken Collums Show. We'll see you next week right here.